Greetings, all you stinky aliens out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor, a Star Trek Deep Space Nine rewatch, Season 2. My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
Yo!
Today we're going to recap, discuss, and rate Season 2, Episode 14, Whispers. Alternate title, The Alternate, which you already anticipated.
Yep.
Alternate title, The Devil Wears Parada.
Oh.
Yes. A quick note on spoilers in case our rewatch is your first watch. Expect full spoilers through this episode and an appropriate minimum of minor spoilers for later in the series, but nothing too bad, like the Commander Sisko, Jake Sisko Freaky Friday episode.
That was a good one.
That could actually be an episode of Star Trek.
100%.
And I might actually enjoy it. This episode originally aired February 6, 1994. It was written by Paul Robert Coyle and directed by Les Landau. Dude just gets around. Okay, before I jump into the episode, I was looking at this, what's this thing called? Like the chat? CGT or CBT or something like that?
The AI thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never actually been able to use it because every time I've tried, it's like, our thing is full. Try again later.
Okay, so like last night, I was reading about it and I was like, I wonder if it could write the plot synopsis for me. Because I looked at my last one, it was 1,200 words long.
Okay.
So I said, can you write a plot synopsis of the Star Trek Deep Space Nine episode, Whispers, that is about 1,200 words long? So I figured for fun, we'd dive into this synopsis first and see what we think of it.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Whispers is the 12th episode of the second season of the American science fiction television series Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
So far, so good.
Well, except it's the 14th, so that's wrong.
Oh, well, that is a problem then, yeah.
The episode begins with the Deep Space Nine crew preparing for a conference on Bajor. During which the Bajoran Provisional Government will sign a trade agreement with the Ferengi. Meanwhile, O'Brien is acting as the chief of security for the conference. As the conference begins, O'Brien begins to experience strange occurrences, such as seeing people who aren't there, hearing whispers, and feeling as though someone is following him. At the same time, O'Brien's wife Keiko is on a botanical survey on a nearby planet. She and her team are also experiencing strange occurrences, including equipment malfunctioning, strange noises, and a sense of being watched. Keiko and her team soon discover that the planet is home to a group of genetically engineered beings known as the Buralans, which is the name of a species from an episode of Next Generation I looked up.
Okay. I was like, we gotta find out if that's a thing.
Yeah. These beings have the ability to manipulate matter and energy and are responsible for the strange occurrences on the planet and on Deep Space Nine. Back on the station, O'Brien's strange experiences continue to escalate, and he becomes convinced that someone is trying to drive him insane. He confides in Bashir, who initially dismisses his concerns, but soon begins to investigate when O'Brien's symptoms become more severe. Meanwhile, Keiko and her team are able to make contact with the Buralans and learn that they are a peaceful people who are being forced to leave their planet due to environmental degradation caused by industrialization. As O'Brien's condition deteriorates, Bashir becomes increasingly concerned and eventually discovers that O'Brien is being affected by the Buralans' telepathic abilities. Bashir is able to use a neural neutralizer to block the Buralans' telepathic abilities, and O'Brien's symptoms begin to subside. Keiko and her team, meanwhile, are able to convince the Bajoran government to stop the industrialization of the Buralans' planet, allowing them to stay in their home. I guess the Bajorans were industrializing.
Yeah, sounds
them.
like, well, what jerks.
In the end, O'Brien and Keiko are reunited, and Keiko tells her husband about the Buralans. O'Brien is relieved to learn that his experiences were not the result of his imagination, but due to the Buralans' telepathic abilities. The episode ends with O'Brien and Keiko discussing the Buralans and the importance of protecting their home. In this episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, the character of O'Brien is at the center of a story that explores themes of mental health, the impact of industrialization on indigenous peoples, and the importance of protecting the environment. The episode is a great example of how Star Trek has often used science fiction to address real-world issues. The episode is both suspenseful and thought-provoking, and will leave audiences with much to ponder.
Wait, did it explain why O'Brien was experiencing these things? Not other people?
Well, apparently Keiko...
Well, I mean, not other people on the station. Like, all the people on the planet makes sense. But it's like, also O'Brien.
No, it does not explain that. Also, I asked for 1,200 words, and it gave me less than 500 words.
That's... Well, I don't understand what just happened. Like, it wrote... I mean, that script could be a script, I guess, but it is not a thing that has happened.
It's like, I don't remember this ever being an episode of... I mean, there's lots of Star Trek episodes that I might not remember, but...
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's plot elements of different episodes. It's like when Data asked the computer to write a new Sherlock Holmes story.
Yeah.
But it's like, did Bajor ever sign a trade agreement with the Ferengi?
Hold on. Ferengi. Yep, I spelled Ferengi wrong. Hold on. Not foreign. I transposed 2 letters, and it's like, hey, did you mean foreign? No. I mean, not that it immediately comes up. I got stuff from Star Trek Ascendancy about trading, like, trade agreements with people, but...
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah, the Ferengi have a trade agreement mechanic or whatever, don't they?
Well, everyone does, but they have a special one.
Okay, yeah. I haven't played that game in a while.
There's nothing mentioned about that I can find about a Bajor Ferengi trade agreement. So this is...
If that sounds to anyone like a real episode, please let us know.
Yeah.
Like what episode that was.
So what I think this means is that AI is just going to write TV episodes in the future, and this is the end of civilization as we know it.
Yeah, I think what it really means is we don't need to be worried about people, like, cheating on essays. Because...
like telling it to summarize a book or something?
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Well, because that was a concern I was reading about, is, like, you might just ask it to, like, write a research paper for you or something. But apparently it just makes up a bunch of stuff, so... And I did read one of the... I don't know if it's one of the warnings on the website itself. Or it's either one of the warnings of the website itself or just another warning. Is that it makes up really plausible sounding stuff that turns out not to be true. So I think this definitely falls under that category. Anyway, that was a little fun experiment.
Yeah.
Now let's get to the real summary of the episode.
The episode that we actually watched... And not that was presumably not written by an AI, unless Robert Coyle or whatever his name was is actually an AI.
I don't know. He could be. This episode has nothing to do with the impact of industrialization on indigenous peoples.
No.
At least directly. Maybe you could read some subtext into it.
Or really mental health. Or what was the other thing that it said? Like environmental protection.
The environment, the importance of protecting the environment.
I don't think any of those themes are really central to this episode. Although, what themes would you say are central to the episode? Maybe that's the question.
True. So, as we open this episode, a runabout zooms past the camera and plunges into the wormhole. Its sole occupant, Chief O'Brien, plots a course for the Parada system, where the devil is. Then he opens a new file and begins a personal log, stating that he doesn't know what's going on, and he doesn't expect to live, but he hopes he can make it in time to warn the Paradas. We flash back to the first moment O'Brien noticed something was wrong. Sleeping in bed, he reaches over to put his hand in Keiko's face, but she's not there. Instead, Keiko and Molly are both already up. They are both acting very strange, and when he asks what they're doing up so early, Keiko puts him off with weird excuses. And I gotta say, Molly's acting in this scene was top-notch.
I think Molly's actress actually always does like a pretty good job. I'm kind of surprised for how young she is, the job that she manages to do. But
Yep.
I want to call out that, and it's actually mentioned in the wiki entry, but when you start the episode and you start to realize people are acting weird, Keiko is just like, oh, she's like just another person that's acting weird. But when you look back with like the knowledge of like what's really going on, I think Keiko, like Rosalind Chow, has a really great subtle performance as Keiko, who's going through this just like kind of unbelievable, messed up sort of thing that she has to try to pretend that things are normal, but is kind of terrified of this. And I think it really comes through nicely.
Yeah. She did a really good job. You know, there's a lot of stuff where, like, looking back in hindsight, you're like, oh, that's what was going on and whatever. But yeah, we'll get to some of that stuff. Then the chief goes to work in the security office, where upgrades apparently need to be made ahead of the Paradan peace talks. But the chief finds an ensign already doing the work. O'Brien is upset, but the ensign just shrugs and said Cisco told him to do it. Then the chief heads out to the promenade. He sees Cisco and Keiko talking to each other. What the hell is going on here? Wonders O'Brien. I presume. With the acting on his face.
I just like, Cisco told you to do this? Yeah, I don't think so. Like, he wouldn't do that without like consulting me first. But it turns out, yes, he would.
And I like the dude just like, look, dude, he told me to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, I gotta do what the commander says. Back in the runabout, narrator O'Brien notices another runabout chasing him. He muses grimly at what will happen when they catch up. Back in the flashback, O'Brien shows up to Ops to find Dr. Bashir weirdly insistent on O'Brien reporting to the infirmary for a physical. He's got to get that annual biometric screening.
Yep.
So he can get the $200 benefit or whatever.
Get a new Apple Watch or something.
Yeah. Cisco apologizes for the mix-up with the repairs and explains that he was simply talking to Keiko about Jake's grades. Cisco asks for the skinny on the Paradans, and O'Brien tells him about their weird mood-based smells.
Yep.
Which is a detail I would have liked to have more of in the episode, but...
I mean, we don't see much of the Paradans, so...
Yeah. Then Cisco breaks the news that all the upper pylons are broken, much to O'Brien's surprise and irritation. So once again, nobody will be taking picnics in the upper pylons.
Or, I mean, you know, if they're broken for ships to be coming in, maybe it's the best place to take a picnic right now. There won't be any ships like blocking your view.
Are the pylons used for anything other than picnics? I don't know. After an extremely thorough physical, Dr. Bashir is a good doctor and thorough. O'Brien gets worried that there's something wrong with him and that nobody wants to tell him. But Bashir gives him a clean bill of health, which is reasonable because he just went through the whole Armageddon game situation.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I don't know how
long
long this is after that. No, let's look at the start date.
It's like, are the Harvesters back or whatever those things were called?
They were called the Harvesters. That's correct. So this is the 33rd produced episode of Deep Space Nine, with the 32nd being Armageddon.
Oh, I think you're not going to find a star date on that last episode.
Oh yeah, there's no star date.
Because it started with a supplemental.
Yep.
Weirdly.
Oh well, no way to know then.
Back on the promenade, O'Brien runs into Jake, who asks for help with a science project. Then lets slip that his grades are fine, contrary to what Cisco had said. But I mean, maybe he's lying. Like, kids have been known to do that about stuff
Could
like
be.
that. After inspecting the upper pylons, which almost seem to have been sabotaged, O'Brien returns to the promenade, where Jake is hanging out with a Pac-Led for some reason.
Yep. Making friends.
Yep, he's just friends with a Pac-Led. You see those Pac-Leds hanging around the station every once in a while. You
do.
You'd think Odo would be keeping an eye on those guys, at least.
See, and I think So we had the one Next Generation episode with the Pack-Led, right? I don't know that they came back at any point in the Next Generation. So then I think seeing them in the background in Deep Space Nine, like frequently, just gave me the idea that since that initial like confrontation, relations with the Pack-Led were like more cordial and like, trade was happening or whatever. Sure. And so they weren't as big at jerks as they used to be. And then in Lower Decks, the Pack-Led are actually kind of a big like opponent, and they are always assholes more or less. So it kind of took me by surprise because I don't think I even realized. I was just like, oh, I thought the Pack-Leds were cool. And then I thought back, I'm like, I mean, but I guess I have no basis for that, since the one other time we saw them, they were also jerks. So
yeah. Maybe there's, different factions.
Yeah.
The Pack-Leds or whatever.
Probably.
So Jake and the Chief talk some more about the science project until Kira shows up to tell Jake his dad is looking for him. And then later we find out that Jake suddenly got sick or something and can't show up for this science project meeting.
Yep.
O'Brien returns home to find that Molly is staying somewhere else. And Keiko is suspiciously not in the mood to get jiggy. Instead, she makes Miles a stew he likes and gets weirdly into watching him eat it. O'Brien, suspicious, does not eat it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there was anything wrong. We never figure out if there was something wrong with the stew. If she, given what we know, I assume that maybe she was trying to make him sleepy so he would go to sleep and stop trying to bang her or whatever. But at worst, obviously she's not trying to poison him or anything. So I'm just like, if you had just also eaten some stew yourself, made 2 bowls, one that was roofied and one that was not, he wouldn't have been in any way suspicious. But instead you're like, no, I'm not going to eat. I'm just going to stare at you.
But we also established she does not like the stew. So that might make him even more suspicious.
Fair point. Should have been a more neutral dish that they both like.
Exactly. I mean, Keiko is not good with these food-based plots. She tried to serve Cardassian food that one time. Didn't go over well.
Well, and it makes a big deal about wait, you made this dish that you don't like? And I'm like, well, it's not like she spent all day slaving over a hot stove. She walked up to the replicator and was like, hey, make this dish my husband likes. I mean, honestly, there's no reason on an average day that each person shouldn't walk up and ask for a plate of whatever they want, as opposed to, everyone eating the same thing. There's no reason for that.
Which seems to be what happened, because she's having her salad.
That's true.
He's eating his whatever stew that was.
But his reaction to it makes it seem like this is unusual.
Yep. But O'Brien stays up, searching the computer for any signs of a body snatcher type situation.
Yep.
But he finds none. He listens to all the logs of the crew, and weirdly finds that he can't access the ones after he returned from his meeting with the Paradas. The Chief is eventually able to hack his way into the logs, but there is nothing unusual about them except references to secured messages from the Parada system and indications that the crew had been scrutinizing his reports and his personal logs, and apparently his naughty letters to Keiko.
Yeah, it's I hope they enjoyed those, jerks.
Luckily, Odo arrives back at the station from Bajor, where he was doing something. I don't think they ever even said. Maybe he was handling security for the Bajor Ferengi trade.
Yeah, that's what was going on. Good call.
The Chief tells him the whole story. Odo seems concerned and says he will investigate. Then O'Brien heads to Quark's, where Quark reminds him of his upcoming rematch with Bashir. Then Quark grills him for info on the Paradas, ostensibly for customer intel ahead of the peace talks on the station.
Yeah, I doubt Quark is in on what's happening here, so he's probably completely legit in his interactions.
Yeah, I mean, Quark is just always shifty, so
yeah,
that makes sense. Although, O'Brien's on high alert already, so everything seems weird.
He's very suspicious of everybody, so.
Odo calls O'Brien to his office, and O'Brien finds him suddenly acting quite cagey. He deduces that they got to Odo too. Suddenly, Sisko and Kira show up with phasers to detain O'Brien, but he distracts them with a flashbang he prepared earlier and books it out of there. After an exciting chase through the station where he uses all kinds of fancy engineering tricks to stay ahead of the rest of the crew, he beams onto a runabout. He tries to contact Starfleet and gets in touch with an admiral, who tells him to turn himself in. O'Brien hangs up and flies through the wormhole, bringing us to the beginning of the episode. Then O'Brien uses his O'Brien super skills to escape from the chasing runabout and tracks them to a planet in the Parada system. He beams down to their location and finds Sisko and Kira talking to two aliens who are presumably Paradans.
Yeah, I mean, they seem to indicate that this is like the rebel faction or whatever.
Right. We don't know what smell they gave out when they were surprised by him showing up. It was never brought up. But they all beg him to listen and promise all will be explained once the mystery door behind them is opened. O'Brien refuses, so one of the Paradans just gets frustrated and shoots him.
Yep.
Then the mystery door opens to reveal Dr. Bashir examining a mystery person. The camera pans over to reveal that the person is Chief O'Brien.
Bum, bum, bum.
Bum, 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 bum. Bashir rushes over from that chief to the other chief. In his last moments, the dying chief looks up to see his doppelganger and the others talk about how he's actually a replicant, presumably programmed to disrupt the peace talks. Replicant chief tells real chief to tell Keiko, "I love," then dies. Presumably he meant to tell her, "I love Jamaican blend coffee."
Yeah, because he orders that Jamaican blend double strong, double sweet a lot in this episode.
Yep. Well, that was weird, thinks the chief, and they all go home. The end. I like to imagine they go, like the chief goes home to Keiko, and Keiko's like, "Oh, I'm so glad to have you back." And he says, "Yes, I'm back." And then his eyes start glowing red.
See, the one thing about this episode that kind of gets to me is I guess you would almost say it's the premise, because like everyone's acting all strange because they've gotten this information that O'Brien may be a replicant, but they can't just like be like, "Hey, we're going to put you in a cell for a while we figure this out," because, quote, like, they don't actually have any proof that that's the case. And so, but they're all going to act super strange and like cut him out of everything despite the fact that there's no proof. So I was just like, I think in reality you would be like, put him in a cell and then explain to him, "Hey, here's the situation. You're going to be in here while we figure this out."
Yeah.
Because like instead they do all this weird stuff and they give him like this long medical test. They should have just given him like the Voight-Kampff test or whatever to find out if he was a replicant. But like other than that, I feel like this is a really solid episode, and I like a lot of what they do here.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, you are right. Like, it doesn't kind of seem like the way they would really handle that. If they're that suspicious of him, they should just like they should tell him, but you never know how he's going to react. Maybe he's made of a bomb inside his chest or something.
True.
And he blows stuff up. So, I don't know. Okay, so here's some notes I have. Number 1. This episode is a reverse of a lot of Star Trek episodes where it's like someone shows up back on the ship or something and everybody's acting really weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like, The Game, or was that called The Game?
Yeah, the game is the one with the guitar in the game, yeah.
Yeah, it was the episode with the
Wesley
game.
Crusher.
Or Conspiracy, I think maybe was another one.
Although,
that was more like the head honchos at Starfleet.
Right, yeah, that was like Starfleet Command, but yeah.
So I like this because it's like, you have to consider if everybody but you is acting weird, maybe there's something wrong with you.
Yeah. Like that is the logical, it's like, yeah. But in Star Trek, like you say, it's almost always the other way around. It's like when one person seems crazy and says that everything has changed, usually that person turns out to be right.
Yeah.
And so I do like that they give you sort of a thing that you're expecting, and then they flip it.
Or like the episode where Riker, the episode that turned out it was a telepathic alien creating a new scenario for him, and he was in a cave or whatever.
I feel like that's happened more than once, but I think you're talking about the one where like he thinks it's the future or whatever, and he's the captain
he thinks
of
it's the
Enterprise.
future, and then and then there's like a twist within a twist where also the Romulan prison was also an illusion.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about Frame of Mind at first, where Riker's in an insane asylum, but then it turns out it's a play, but then it's not a play.
Yeah. That one kind of played with the fact that he might be crazy or something.
Yeah.
Or
true.
Sometimes they do. It's not uncommon for them to play with that. Anyway, another note I have is Thomas Riker scenario averted.
Oh yeah, we don't have a second one.
So yeah, luckily we just shot the other O'Brien. We don't have to mess with him anymore.
I mean, it could have ended up like as a Harry Kim scenario where we get the replicant and then the wrong one ends up dying, and then the new one just replaces the old one.
That would have been fun.
You don't know that didn't happen.
Yep, I kind of suspect it did, but we will never know.
I mean, they probably didn't go through with the peace talks now that you found out that one side is trying to sabotage them so hard. It's like, okay, so these peace talks you're not really serious about them. Got it.
Yeah, because it was like the government that makes the replicants. And yeah, if they're using their fancy replicant technology to do an assassination or something, they're probably not ready for peace talks.
Yep. So, if maybe the O'Brien they rescued was also a replicant and programmed to destroy the peace talks, but if they don't happen, then his programming never activates.
True. He just lives out the whole rest of his life.
Yep.
We also don't know exactly what... I guess Bashir, scanned him down to, the nth degree and couldn't find any difference.
Yes.
So it's not like he's made of machine on the inside or anything like that.
Nope. I mean, they're really unclear on what exactly he is that is so perfect that they couldn't and in the wiki it talks about that. It's like originally the idea was like it was a clone or something, but we've kind of already done that. And so they're going to say android, but then android, there's already an association with data and androids. Yeah. So they were like, I guess we'll just call it a replicant, and it's something different from clone or android or anything like that.
Sure. I mean, replicants are more human than human, so it fits, according to Blade Runner.
And so the Coyle, the writer, is just like, I mean, he wasn't a clone or an android or a robot, so what's left? I used replicant, and nobody objected.
Yeah. Okay, so you remember those episodes of Batman? It was the one was called His Silicon Soul.
Okay.
Where there was a robot copy of Batman, but it was a sequel to another episode where I think the commissioner and some other people had been replaced by robots. You remember these episodes of Batman the Animated Series?
Vaguely, I remember the name Hardak.
Yeah, Hardak made the replicants.
I don't remember the details. I just that name just always sticks out to me.
I was trying. I think they were called replicants in that episode.
Here, I'm going to Google this.
And this episode reminded me especially a lot of His Silicon Soul episode where Batman had to fight his Batman replicant.
Duplicant is apparently what they're
Duplicant.
called.
Okay, sorry.
The Batman Duplicant eventually returns in Batman Beyond, Batman Beyond, where he enlists an army of droids at the Batcave before fighting Bruce Wayne and Terry McGinnis.
Huh.
Wow.
I never saw that.
No, me either.
Yes, but it had a kind of similar scene at the end of that episode where because the duplicant spent most of the episode thinking he was Batman, and then he put a microchip in his brain and remembered that he was a duplicant, and then he fought Batman, and Batman killed him, and then Batman's like, could it be he had a soul? Or no, that's right. It got into a situation where the duplicant thought he had killed Batman, and then the duplicant killed himself because he felt so guilty or something like that, because he still had the Batman do not kill code. in him. I'm just trying to say, it reminded me a lot of that episode.
Yeah, no, I got you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just sitting here reading the summary of that episode now, where it's like, apparently him and Batman are fighting on a cliff, and then Batman goes over the edge and he thinks he's killed Batman, and then he stops Hardak from uploading stuff with the Bat computer by destroying the Bat computer. Right. But then the Bat computer explodes and knocks him into the Batmobile, which sets off the sprinklers, which then shorts him out.
Yeah, he like punches the Bat computer or something till it explodes or something like that. And then, yeah, he like gets sprinkler on him, and yeah, okay. I should have just rewatched that episode before
apparently
recording.
But apparently, according to the wiki, the inspiration for this episode largely comes from a movie, a 1974 film called The Parallax View.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've heard of that movie. Because it's... I didn't know it was about that, though.
I don't think it is. Like, I went and read the summary of that, and I'm like, it doesn't seem like it's about... It doesn't seem like it's that same thing, but I don't know. I didn't read it all that closely. But there's also... Part of the inspiration, apparently, is like, we want to do like an Invasion of the Body Snatchers thing, but from the Body Snatchers' viewpoint.
Ooh, that is a cool like concept. I'm trying to think. What's the movie it reminds me more of? The one where the guy's mom controls him with a microchip or whatever.
Psycho. Oh wait.
And he tries to assassinate the vice president or the president or something like that. The Manchurian Candidate.
Okay. Yeah. No. I don't think I've ever actually seen The Manchurian Candidate, so I didn't know there was a microchip involved. But I believe.
I don't think it's a microchip. I forgot. I watched it a while ago. But yeah, I think it's just like plain old brainwashing, actually. But I was thinking microchip because of that episode of the Venture Brothers where Bud Manstrong or whatever that guy's name is gets a microchip in his brain.
Oh yeah, to assassinate. Yeah, I remember this.
Or that's what they think is going on, but it turns out he's just like a mama's boy and does whatever his mom says.
Yeah.
Oh, my final note: the Proton Cave has some obviously reused Deep Space Nine set elements. Like, there's some really Cardassian-looking architecture in there.
Interesting. Okay.
But, can't fault them.
Apparently there's a shot where, like, when the station is firing at the runabout, where their phasers are green for some reason, even though we've established in previous episodes that they have, like, standard Federation phasers on there.
Maybe they were, like, they were special stun the ship phasers because they didn't want to kill O'Brien or something. I don't know. And is the Mekong the new runabout?
Yes, the Mekong replaced the Ganges from last that got destroyed in the last one or whatever.
Okay, whichever one got destroyed in the last episode. So now we have the Mekong. We still have the Rio Grande, right?
Yep.
And
because those are the two involved in the chase in this episode.
And then what's the other one we still have? We gotta keep track of these runabouts.
Let me look at the runabouts list. The Yangtze Kiang.
Okay, I buy it.
Or is that the one that was already destroyed also?
Okay, I feel like that was the one that was destroyed last.
That may have been the first one destroyed, because it says that the original three runabouts that the DS9 got was the Ganges, the Yangtze Kiang, and the Rio Grande.
Okay.
And so then when do we get new ones? List of runabouts.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got Memory Gamma. Thank you, Memory Gamma.
Oh wow.
The Danube. First ship of the class.
Sure.
Mentioned in the technical manual. The Ganges, the Mekong, the Orinoco. We may not have seen that one yet. The Rio Grande, the Rubicon.
Or is the Orinoco the other one we have right now? Was the Orinoco the replacement for the Yangtze Kiang?
That's an excellent question. This article, while it lists all of them, is not the best about telling me like their status or anything. So let me go back to the other one and see if I can get a more detailed look at this. Okay, so we got the Ganges, the Mekong, the Rio Grande. We'll see when the Orinoco shows up. The Orinoco meant as a replacement for the Yangtze Kiang.
Okay.
Yep.
Mystery solved.
Yep. So spoilers about some of the other ones, I guess, since I named some that apparently haven't showed up.
Some spoilers on ship names.
Yep. So the first idea for the script apparently had O'Brien waking up one morning to discover Molly and Keiko were gone and no one on the station remembers him ever being there. And then he finds out that there is a Chief Miles O'Brien in Starfleet, but he's serving on the Enterprise D.
Uh-huh.
And so he's trying to figure out the mystery. And then it notes a similar premise would later be used in a Voyager episode, Non Sequitur.
So, like, is that implying he teleported to a parallel universe where...
It doesn't explain. That's all of the explanation of it. Although in the next bit where they talk about developing the script further than that, they talk about there was like a bunch of amnesia stuff and they decided they didn't want to go that way.
Yeah.
And that's when they came up with the idea about using the parallax view and basing some of the stuff on that.
Okay.
With highlighted by strong accents of political paranoia as a central character attempts to unravel a dangerous mystery.
Okay. I mean, I felt like the political paranoia angle was pretty subdued.
It would have been more interesting if it was people that we knew anything about.
Because it was like, it was always these vague references to like the government and the rebels.
Yeah.
And then at one point, O'Brien's just like, don't even ask me to explain the politics, but I will tell you the aliens are very stinky.
So, yeah, I mean, if it was like, Cardassians or Romulans or something, some people that we actually knew and cared about the political situation, then there might have been a more intensity to it. But at the same time, if one of those had the ability to make like perfect replicants, then we would have to be on the lookout for that all the time.
That would be very bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's hope this technology doesn't fall into the wrong hands.
This episode is the first mention of the Cardassian Federation demilitarized zone, which will become important later.
Oh, it is. When did they mention that?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, honestly.
I swear they mentioned that in Next Gen at some point, but
They
maybe
do.
it's in a later episode than this.
Yeah, it says that it will become important in future DS9 episodes and Next Generation episodes.
Okay.
As well as the series premiere of Voyager.
Oh, because isn't the planet where they meet the humanoid, the original humanoids or whatever, isn't that in the DMZ or something like that?
Maybe. That would make sense. What else? Jadzia only speaks off screen in this episode as O'Brien is playing logs.
Huh.
Where was Morn hanging out? Did you spot him?
I did not spot Morn, but I would not be surprised.
This is another one of those episodes that doesn't have a B story because you kind of can't have one. To maintain like how the script works, you can't cut to anybody else doing something else.
That'd be
kind of all from O'Brien's perspective.
That would be kind of weird to be having this like weird psychological O'Brien story, then just cut to like Jake and Nog having some shenanigans.
Right. But once again, it makes for a really powerful story when it's all focused.
Exactly.
Les Landau, apparently, it says he made the decision to shoot this as a film noir sort of thing. He shot it really fast, and he came in way under schedule, and we saved tons of money. And he kept telling me he was concerned because he was delivering it too fast. Series director David Livingston says. But apparently, everyone seems to agree that while it's a really solid episode, the end is kind of quick and not the most satisfying.
I mean, it is quick, but it's like, how much more can you stretch it out? Like, because, once you see that, you're like, oh, okay, that's what's going on. I figured it was probably something like that.
David X. Cohen from Futurama says this is one of his favorite episodes, and he feels it has a slightly Futurama-esque storyline. Which, I think there is an episode about people being replaced. There's probably several, actually, about people being replaced by robots. But that's...
There's the Brain Slugs episode.
Oh, that's also true. But no, there's an episode where it's like Fry or Leela dies and is replaced, and like then the other one makes a robot like replicant of them to be in a relationship with, and then gets sad and dies. But then it turns out that they were a robot after all because they were really the one who died. It's like a whole thing.
Oh yeah. Was that in a Comedy Central episode?
Yeah, it was one of the newer ones.
Okay. Morn was not in this episode, and he won't show up again until episode 17, according to Memory Alpha.
But my favorite note in here, which actually made me kind of sad, was there's a scene that was filmed of O'Brien singing "The Minstrel Boy" from that Next Generation episode while being chased on the runabout, and it's like you can see it in the shooting script. And I went out and read it. It is a very short scene. It's just like him sitting there. He needs something to do, and the guys are chasing him, and so he's sitting there like singing to himself, and then he's like, you know what? Open a channel to the other ship, and then he like sings at them for a while before like turning it off, and it's actually kind of fun. But it's cut because there was a continuity mistake in there that no one caught until like the Paul Robert Coyle, the writer, he got sent the shooting script, which is apparently only sent out after it's been shot, and he was like, hey, you guys have him calling like the wrong runabout the Rio Grande of like the two. And they're like, oh crap. And it was too late to fix it, so they just cut that out.
Too late to just like do a quick little dub over?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't make TV shows, so I won't tell them how to do their job.
But apparently the whole wraparound with him in the runabout at the beginning came because the episode ended up kind of short and they had to pad it some. And so he's like, after all the trouble to like add more stuff to the episode, they end up cutting out like this 2-page scene that actually worked really well.
Yeah, it always kind of annoys me, like the like 52 hours earlier or whatever. It was relatively unobnoxious in this episode.
Yeah, I think it played okay here.
Yeah, and like because he was using it also for like that apparently like film noir style narration device or whatever. Right. So
which worked.
Yeah. I kind of wonder. So you remember the movie Conspiracy Theory?
Yes, I do.
Where he has to buy Catcher in the Rye whenever he can.
Right.
I wonder if the replicant O'Brien has to get Jamaican blend coffee.
That's the tell.
Whenever he can. That's how they track him.
Yep. Oh, another replicator just shows Jamaican blend coffee, double strong, double sweet being ordered.
Yep. It's like this big red light goes off.
Given that most of the people in the show are always ordering like Klingon coffee, it's interesting to me that O'Brien prefers Jamaican blend.
Yep. He likes that Earth coffee, I guess. Yep. Okay, so you want to jump into ratings?
Yeah, sure. Let's do some ratings. What do you think?
No, you go first. I'll go first the last 3 times.
I like this episode, and like I said, I started out saying that there's the one piece that does not ring true to me, but other than that, I feel like the episode does everything really well. It creates the mood that it's going for really well. And you pointed out that if you have Star Trek experience, then you've built an expectation that it's going to go one way, and then they managed to flip it the other way, which is also cool.
Yeah.
I feel like the whole thing works, and so I'm a big fan of the episode. I'm going to say, for me, it's going to be another Commander, and I think I'm going to put it... It's going to be my top or my second level Commander, I think. I'm just trying to decide if I like it better than that piece of the opening 3 that is topping my list right now. I think I would put it just under that. I think it'd be my number 2 Commander at this point.
So between the Siege and the Homecoming?
Yeah.
Okay. Was Whispers. Another so-so title.
Yeah, the title...
I guess there were whispers, but...
Like we mentioned, it could have been the alternate, except that would be a spoiler for what was actually going on.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, Whispers is okay. Whispers is not nearly as bad as some of the titles that we've had, but at the same time, it is once again kind of a forgettable title. Like, if you were like, hey, what's the episode of Star Trek called Whispers about? I would not be able to tell you.
Right, exactly. Is that the one where the Ferengi peace talks or the trade
the Ferengi Bajor trade agreement is happening? Yeah.
And then the Bajor have industrialized a planet and the indigenous people are using telepathy to mess with O'Brien.
Well, and I looked up that species after you said that it was in the Next Generation episode. I was like, this is not at all like the species that is in the script.
So they're not telepathic or anything?
No, it's if you remember the episode with like Worf's brother, where like there's he's basically breaking the Prime Directive to try to save these people from destruction, and they have to like create this like entire journey on the holodeck so that they can transport these people from their dying planet to another planet without them realizing that something is going on. Like, it's those people.
Okay. Were they being destroyed by industrialization?
No, I think like their planet was like being destroyed by like volcanic eruptions, or I don't know. It was some sort of natural disaster, and they were kind of I think they were like pre-industrial.
Right, because it was like a Prime Directive type situation. So back to ratings. I'm also gonna give it a Commander, and I just think of like the first three is like all one piece.
Yeah,
and I kind of hate to split them up, so I'm gonna slide it right in under that, above Cardassians, which I quite liked, but like it's just, it's like a cool like twist on a Star Trek premise. It's just like a cool kind of like sci-fi. It's like, it's like a little sci-fi short story, which I always love episodes that are kind of like that.
This is a very self-contained episode, which allows it to do some interesting stuff. But if it had been like a bigger, like the kind of episode that has an effect that you remember, a season from now, then it might have hit Captain for me, but it wasn't. It wasn't quite there because it really is this. It's a small story that's told really well, but that's all that it is. It doesn't affect anything else.
Yeah, I kind of like that. It's like to the other characters, it's almost like this minor weird thing. Like they don't really spend too much time dwelling on the replicant as a person.
They really don't. That actually kind of bugs me at the end when Sisko's like, yeah, maybe in his own weird way he was trying to be a hero. And I was like, this thing seems to have been in every way like a living, breathing, thinking, like exactly like O'Brien in every way. So then to just like belittle him at the end like that by being like, oh man, what a loser trying to be a hero. It that kind of bothered me.
Yeah. I mean, it bothers me, but like in kind of in a way I like, where you're like, don't you see that's a person? He had this whole like inner life, and he was going on this whole adventure like in his own mind or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, just the dismissal, where I expect better from Starfleet about like unusual life forms to you know to be dismissed like that. Like, oh yeah, he wasn't even alive, whatever. I'm like, but like he kind of was.
Like the time they accidentally grew a clone of that guy, and then
yeah, and nobody cared.
They were like, well, he just started living his life.
So yeah, I mean, it's just it's a little bit weird in that sense, and it's it's a little bit troubling the way that Sisko reacts, and it bothers me slightly. But yeah, like you said, it's kind of an interesting, like not necessarily bad. But it's a different look at things, and I'm like, come on, Sisko, you're better than that.
Yeah. Well, any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
Final thoughts. I will say, in my opinion, and it doesn't necessarily mesh with what Fletcher's ratings have been. I think that this season overall has been pretty solid, and mine is kind of like maybe half above the line, half below the line. But there haven't been as many episodes that I was like feeling really bad about as the first season. I think overall that season 2 is going in a good direction for the most part. Yeah. Although, I mean, we had the good start, and then after that it was kind of down for a while for me, and I did say at the time, like, oh, it's kind of taking a drop. But in the last couple episodes, we're kind of going back up, so now I'm feeling positive again.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there was definitely a slump. You and I have the same number of episodes below the line.
Do we? I'm looking at the most recent one that came out, Rivals, and you actually have like 4 below the line and then everything else above. So you have like the season's really superior, but then 2 of yours are ensign, and I haven't had one that I felt bad enough about to be ensign yet. So
yeah, I kind of I've kind of gone a little crazy with the ensigns, but yeah, you have Cardassian's Rules of Acquisition, Melora, Second Sight, and Sanctuary are all below the line, and I have Rivals, Second Sight, Melora, the Alternate, and Sanctuary.
Okay, so yeah, that's 5 for okay. I was miscounting mine. I was thinking I had 6, but you're right, it is 5.
I'm just looking at my latest notes, so I don't know what the latest one that's been published is, but yeah, I mean, I think these good episodes, I think it's in the good episodes where we're starting to see the real improvements. Like a good episode for season 2 is like better than a good episode for season 1 on average.
Yeah,
I feel
on average. I mean, we haven't, obviously with no captains, we haven't hit like duet level yet.
Yeah.
But
I think
but
we're also just kind of stingy with the captain. But I can't think of anything that I would really want to give captain. So
not yet.
We'll see. We'll see. I think we got plenty more season to go still.
Yeah. We got what episode is this? This is the 14th episode you said, and there are 26 total. So yeah, we're just over halfway.
Yep. Ready to wrap it up?
Yep.
Okay. So if you made it this far, thank you for listening. Be sure to check out the description where I occasionally put links to interesting things. I'm Fletcher, about to say goodbye as Data.
Adios.
And remember, every once in a while, declare peace. It confuses the hell out of your enemies. The end.